All right, next we have Terri Harrison. Welcome.
I guess so. No problem with that. I'm Terri Harrison, and my talk will be how to be 56 years old in 2023. Just kidding. There could be. Excuse me, I'm a sports massage therapist, in case some of you didn't know this, and in the last year and a half, I've been dealing with symptoms, treatment, and recovery from cancer. My symptoms started in December 2021. I thought I was dealing with bleeding hemorrhoids. I got through having 4 kids, and it's like, then I just started dealing with hemorrhoids, so I'm like, ah. But I tried treating myself with natural remedies for a couple of months, but that I didn't see any improvement with that. And I was thinking about going to the doctor in March, but I ended up putting in an application for a rental. And if you understand Woodland Park and rentals, I ended up getting it. And so my focus had to be on packing up and moving within 3 weeks of seeing the house. So by April, I really wasn't doing good at all. And I was trying to get established with a local doctor. When I called my insurance company, they ended up giving me like a 5-month wrestling match, saying that I wasn't in their system. Well, my dad was military, my ex was military. There hasn't been a day that I haven't been in their system. And then they were saying that I didn't qualify under these new regulations that they implemented but never informed me, because they still had my address from 8 years ago, even though I've updated it through the years. But the joys of working with the government. So I started an appeal process with them. By July, I really wasn't doing well, and went to the Army Hospital emergency room. They did an exam, and then they did a CAT scan and found a cancerous tumor at the rectum. The appeal process finally did get taken care of, and I was approved in August. So I still had a couple of weeks after being diagnosed to wait to get proper care with an oncologist. From the times of the symptoms to now, these are some of the things that I've learned that have helped me in this process. First is love. When the symptoms kicked in, I was in a lot of pain and was exhausted. I was up most of the night going to the bathroom because the amount of bleeding that was going on, not getting more than an hour of sleep most nights at a time. And during that time, it was all I could do to show up at work. So when I got home, all I did was rest. I wasn't cleaning my house, doing dishes. I was barely getting any laundry done. All my energy needed to be for work. And as I lay there surrounded by a messy house, I made sure that my self-talk was where it needed to be. I kept saying things like, I can afford to be generous and kind to myself. I can give myself permission to rest and recover. The best thing I can do for myself is not to worry about the things around me, but to be intentional about putting my physical needs above my temporal needs. And then life won't always be like this. You see, I'm a life coach also, and along with being a sports massage therapist, but it was important to know that I do practice what I preach, because self-talk is really important. It can be your victory or it can be your victim. I would be generous and patient with somebody if they were in health crisis. It was important to treat myself with the same consideration and love that I would so easily pour out to others. So Mark 12:31 says, love your neighbor as yourself. So we're going to try this activation is what I'd like to call it. Now, I want you to fill your heart with love. Just fill it with a feeling of love and feeling it expand and expand and expand. You're going to be stretching and filling with that love. Keep stretching, keep filling till it's like this big. Now I want you to take that love, that heart of love that you have, and I want you to wrap it around your neighbor like a hug, like a heart hug for your neighbor. So you're going to take that heart of love all stretched out and full and wrap it around your neighbor. Well, that takes extra love. Or you can send it to somebody else in the room. How's that? Okay. So now I'm going to challenge you a little bit. Now we're going to fill our hearts again with love. We're going to bring it back. And we're going to fill that heart with love. More love. More love. And we're going to stretch it real big. Real big. Because I want you to think about either Green Mountain Falls, Colorado Springs, Woodland Park, Divide, whatever city that you're in or is you have a heart for, and I want you to spread your heart of love over that city. Do you see I have to stretch it a little bit bigger? Stretch it bigger to cover that city with your love. A heart of love stretched over a city. Okay, now bring it back. We're going to do it one more time. So fill it back up with love. And we're going to stretch it out again. Stretch it out, full of love. Stretch it wide. Now wrap yourself in that love. Did you see how it was almost easier to wrap someone else or a big city in that love than it is for you to receive your own love? This might take some practice to give it to yourself. And sometimes we have to learn to love our neighbors first, so then we can in turn learn to love ourselves with that same love. So the second thing is emotional dis-ease. While I was waiting for medical support, what is there for me to do for myself? I've done all that I could physically, so my focus turned to being the emotional part. You see, the emotional dis-ease opens the door for physical disease. They say about 85% of physical disease is emotional based, although I think that even is more than that. So what I did is I looked up the emotional root of polyps. Polyps are what tumors are before they go rogue. Well, the emotional root of polyps is self-hatred. I could see where that's applicable. I was upset with myself for some choices that I had done and then some situations that I got myself into. So I had to do some work on myself, and I did that, but I still needed help. So with the work of our very own Jen, hi Jen, Jen Beamer, who does a technique called Splunkna, I did some sessions with her. And so for our first session, we dealt with self-hatred. In the course of the session, I found out that self-hatred is actually a coping mechanism for unreturned love. When Jen said those two words, unreturned love, that just pretty much summed up my whole life. I was raised in an emotionally abusive family, being bullied by my 3 brothers. I had a baby out of wedlock at 19, and I didn't have the support of the father, and my family wouldn't let me bring her home. So I had to place her for adoption because I didn't have the means to raise her myself. And then I went through a 20-year marriage to a narcissist. Lots of unreturned love. The next session I did with Jen, I wanted to deal with unworthiness. And Jen got super excited about this. It's like I just told her we're going to Disneyland tomorrow. She was like, oh my gosh, have I told you? And I'm like, no. So this is what she told me. In the New Testament, where it says spirit of Antichrist or the Antichrist spirit, that the closest thing in Hebrew that can be translated to is unworthiness. That continues to blow my mind today, that the most antichrist thing is the unworthiness. Just leave that one there. That's like a piece of beef jerky. You just kind of take off a slice and have to chew on it for a while. Finally, we're going to deal with giving and receiving. Giving tends to be fundamental in the Christian walk. I have been taught to give and to share most of my life, and I assume so have you. Giving or being a giver means you're trying not to be selfish, self-centered, but living a life with compassion and kindness and love. Acts 20:35, it is better to give than to receive. 2 Corinthians 9:7, God loves a cheerful giver. This has been a year of receiving for me, as I have gone through over a year of cancer treatments, unable to work. People and agencies were helping me. It was easy to feel horribly awkward and to feel like a charity case. It felt so humbling to receive. I wrestled with feelings of inadequacy, unworthiness, humiliation, justification, rejection, isolation, and despair. I can feel desperate and ashamed all at the same time. Even after I received a gift or help, I have wrestled with the tension of answered prayer. So I'd get an answer to prayer, yay! But at the same time, there was a feeling of unworthiness and not being enough. I found myself trying to justify why I needed so much help, or try to figure out how little I needed as not to take too much. So this is what I figured out about givers. As a giver, I have a history with God of giving sometimes everything, knowing that He will take care of me. If I gave you the shirt off of my back, I know He would provide for me. But if you gave me the shirt off your back, especially if I didn't need it, this is where it got hard for me. You see, as a giver, I am used to being in the middle of what God is doing and being a part of the answered prayer in your life. But as a receiver, now I'm part of God. And now I'm not part of what God is doing to take care of you. And I don't have a history of that. I have to learn to trust God to take care of you without me being involved. This is a different kind of faith. Although if you look at it, it's really the same. It's just a different perspective. Let's look at giving and receiving another way. As I've mentioned, I am a sports massage therapist. So let's apply some of my knowledge of further understanding of what's going on. First, you need to know that muscles pull, they don't push. So every muscle that pulls something one way, there's going to be an opposite muscle that pulls it the other. And our brain is smart enough to know that if this muscle is on, this muscle has to turn off. So basically, you can't have two opposing muscles on at the same time. Well, giving is a muscle, and receiving is the opposite muscle. And you have to have equal balance, strength in both to have a healthy joint and good range of motion and movement. The problems with givers is their receiving muscle is atrophied or so weak from not using it. So the only way to get healthy is to do everything you do with your giving muscle. You do that with your receiving muscle. What does that look like? Freely you have given, so freely you receive. If you are not stingy in your giving, don't be stingy in your receiving. If you gave abundantly, then receive abundantly. Cheerfully you have given, so cheerfully receive. You need to joyfully receive without keeping an account so that you can pay them back when you get a chance. During this last year, I've received many costly gifts of time, energy, money, and prayer. I was trying to keep a mental record of who gave so that maybe when things return back to normal, I could kind of balance the scales. But this is what God talked to me about. It is my only job to receive well, period. It is God's job to put value on the gift, not mine. It is God's job to see that you get a return on your investment, not mine. If you are a great giver, I pray you are given the opportunity to be a great receiver. Now for a medical update. I still get tired easy. I am getting some adulting stuff done, and I am working like part-time. But I have to take it slow and steady. I am getting away from having to take a nap every day, but it still happens at least once a week and sometimes several times a week. It depends on how much adulting stuff I have to get done. Monday, I have an MRI and a CT scan that I'm going to be doing. And then on Wednesday, I meet with the surgeon to find out if he has a job to do or not. So the results of the test will show if the tumor is there or not. If it is there, the surgeon has a job, and his job will be to remove it. If it's not there, then I still have surgeries after that to remove the medical devices that they put in my body a year ago. I get asked a lot this: do you feel the tumor? Is it there or is it gone? Well, with all the scar tissue down there from radiation, it's hard to tell. But this is what I would say: I am healed. I just don't know where I am in the healing process. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your vulnerability and sharing and updates and lots of good wisdom there. So, Dan, are you coming? Come on up. Yes, we got one mic, so I'm giving it.
Hey, thank you for sharing all that. I was struck by your words on the giving and receiving that how many of you guys out there had the visceral reaction when she said the word charity case? Just kind of go, ooh. Which I think from a Christian perspective, it's like, yes, I want to give, I want to give, I want to give. I don't want to receive charity. And everybody's at such a, I guess it's an unworthy, right? It's unworthiness. I feel like if I'm receiving, then I must be lacking. And I think that's an important lesson for us to disconnect lack from receiving. So.
Yeah, I agree that we have been taught to give everything, and we've been taught that receiving isn't as glorious as giving. And to be in need is not as glorious as being not in need. I know, you get to hear all of that stuff, and so, but receiving does require a faith and a trust, and knowing that God's provision comes to you in different ways, and that too many times receiving has allowed the enemy to come in and harass and punish us for needing and being needy or not having enough or not being enough. And the truth is that you are enough, and our provision comes in many different ways. I have a friend that she was praying the prayer of, God, I pray for multiple streams of income. And one day God asked her, do you want to pray a better prayer? And she goes, yeah. And he goes, pray for multiple streams of provision. Because too many times our provision is what the works of our hands can do. And right now I can't work hard enough to deal with the things that I'm dealing with. God still is providing and taking care of me especially when I have surgery next month. You know, it's going to take 4 to 6 weeks because it's all the muscles that I use for what I do. What I do is kind of like a physical therapy appointment, but I'm not a physical therapist. I don't have that many student loans, and you'll actually like me at the end of the hour. You won't hate me. So things are still up in the air, and I'm still walking it out, but God's provided all along the way.
The receiving aspect of what you just taught us was absolutely incredible, and I want to give honor to whom honor is due, because I struggled with that immensely, and Richard gave to me one time, and I almost refused it for that very reason, and I had to deal with that for a couple of days, but then Daddy made that okay, but I didn't have the understanding of it that you just gave us. And I really appreciate what you just said. And I want to thank you again, Richard.
That's why it's important not to keep accounts, because you want to, like, in the back of your head go, well, when life returns to normal, I'll be able to do something. And there's not enough doing. Sometimes you just need to be in receiving mode, and your receiving season actually will determine your next giving season.
When you're talking about this, I just remember this one time, because I struggle with it. I don't want to take anything from anybody. And in church, they said to me, if you don't receive what they're giving you, you take away from their blessing that they will receive. So just take it. And it's hard. It's not easy.
It is something that you can learn to do, just like you learn to give and to trust God when you gave everything away, that you can also trust God when you receive everything and can give nothing.
Sir, that's wonderful. We know how much you've been through, and you've been strong through so much of it. And God bless you for it and for your faith. You know, I know God wants you healed, and we're believing with you that you are healed. We have a friend I was telling you about that was going through the same thing you are, and she just finished her, 6 weeks of heavy-duty chemotherapy. Was just ready to celebrate and she fell and broke her humerus and dislocated her shoulder. And, you know, it's really hard. You just have to keep plugging into people and encouraging. It's very difficult, son. It's difficult, you know, but I can appreciate what you've gone through. I haven't gone through it, but I've gone through similar situations. You just have to keep your faith strong and let other people pray and lift you up. And we're praying and lifting you up. God bless you. Thanks for sharing. It's wonderful.
We'll give you a little caveat. So I'm actually writing a book of what Nancy Cohen calls my Terryisms. So the giving and receiving, a lot of the stuff is in the book that I'm writing. And one of the things that I've written was, God showed me faith is like a balloon, but hope is the air inside that determines the size. So if you can get a fiery hope, you can have a hot air balloon of faith. So anyway.
Anyone on Zoom have any questions? Well, we got a lot of you. We're glad you're with us. Anyone else in the room? We got a couple minutes. All right. Well, thank you very much, Terri. Bless you.